Hello guys, welcome to my channel Miss Recap. Today I am going to explain 2022 horror slasher movie called Terrifier 2. The movie opens with an injured Connor crawling across the floor after a brutal attack by Art the Clown. He reaches for the phone to call 911 while Art nonchalantly looks himself in the mirror and writes his name in his own blood. He then reaches for a reflex hammer to finish him off. He smashes his skull and tearing it, hoping to take out his internal organs, including his brain and eyes just because he can. Afterwards, he heads to a laundromat in his bloody glory. Unbeknownst to the sleeping employee, Art undresses and tosses his costume inside the washing machine. The clown reads the newspaper to pass time. Right when he comes across a little girl with clown makeup, she curiously walks up to Art and starts playing with him. When the employee wakes up, he sees Art playing with thin air. A while after, we see Art leaving the laundromat after having killed the employee by hailing a mop handle through his head. We then skip to a year later to a girl named Sienna Shaw in her candle-decorated bedroom. She is focused on finishing her homemade warrior Halloween costume, which includes a pair of wings and a sword. The costume means a great deal to her as it was designed by her late father, who recently passed away from a brain tumor. During dinner with her family, Sienna's mom, Barbara, asks her brother, Jonathan, what he is dressing up as for Halloween. Jonathan says he had liked to dress up as the infamous clown serial killer from the news, surging the protest of her sister and her mother. After dinner, Sienna talks to her mother about her brother's fascination with serial killers, while upstairs Jonathan is researching the previous year's killing incident involving Art the Clown. Later that night, Sienna dreams about being in a clown cafe where she encounters Art the Clown there. He begins entertaining everyone there by handing out candies, but Sienna appears uncomfortable from the get-go. When it's Sienna's turn, Art hands her a gift of a soup with a very disgusting beating heart and worms inside. The box then starts filling up with blood, while Art finally drops the charade by taking out a submachine gun and killing everyone. Despite this, Sienna survives and tries to run away. The clown burns the remaining guests and the guitarist with a flamethrower. After Art torches the place with a flamethrower, he watches up the Sienna to finish her off. As the clown is about to burn her, Sienna takes out the warrior's blade displayed in her room to shield herself. All of a sudden, she awakes to find the wings for her costume burning. She tries to put out the fire to no avail, so she rushes out of the room to call her mother Barbara, then comes in with a fire extinguisher. The mother is understandably upset and starts scolding her for keeping her candles lit when she went to bed. Sienna, however, swears she already put the candles out. After her mother leaves, she walks up to what's left of her wings and finds that the sword her father gave her is left unscathed. Meanwhile, on the other side of the story, Art the Clown and the little clown girl is watching a talk show interviewing Vicky, the sole survivor from the first movie whose face is now heavily disfigured. After Vicky claims that she watched Art kill himself, the clown gets up and smashes the TV. The next day at school, Sienna's brother Jonathan is at class when he raises his hand to go to the restroom. On his way to the bathroom, he instead stumbles upon Art the Clown and the little girl toying with a disemboweled dead possum. Once they see Jonathan, they threw the dead possum at him. Terrified, Jonathan runs until he comes across a teacher who decides to check out the scene, only to find the dead possum there while this is going on. Sienna and her high school friends are engrossed in a conversation about how Art the Clown's survivor, Vicky, maimed the talk show host with her bare hands right after the live interview. Back to Jonathan, Barbara the mom gets visibly upset to learn that he is gotten suspended from school because the teacher thinks it was Jonathan who brought the dead possum. After school, Sienna and her friend Ellie head to a costume shop to purchase a new pair of wings. While Sienna is busy browsing, Ellie bumps into Art the Clown, but doesn't take a second glance as she assumes it's only a person dressed up as him. Not only that, Sienna sees Art in the shop too, staring and smiling at her. This scares her, so she rushes to the cashier to pay, only to realize that she's left her bag downstairs. But then Art drops her bag on the table, shocking her. The clown proceeds to hang around, making silly gestures behind her. As the shopkeeper goes to get the bag, Art approaches and starts poking her, which of course makes the girl feel uncomfortable. Seeing this, the shopkeeper finally scolds him and Sienna doesn't want to stay any longer, so she gets the hell out of there immediately. After she leaves, Art closes the shop and locks the door. He walks up to the shopkeeper while carrying a huge bag as she prepares to pay for his purchase. He takes out a series of tools from his bag, which irritates the shopkeeper and makes him scold Art. Without saying anything, Art smashes a bottle on his head and stabs the sharp end into the poor man's eye. He then violently decapitates the shop vendor. Soon after, a mother and son see Art carrying the shopkeeper's head, and the son voices his excitement over seeing such realistic Halloween decor. Sienna manages to get back home safely and is greeted by her brother, who tells her that he saw the clown at school, along with a little girl whose face he is seen in their dad's sketchbook before. He begins showing his sister the pages, one of which eerily contains a sketch of Art the clown and other murder victims from the previous year. At the very last page, he shows her a sketch featuring Sienna in the warrior costume, holding a beast head in her hand. Jonathan insists these old drawings must be symbolic, as their dad gave Sienna a warrior sword for a reason, but it is too soon for her to believe him. We get interrupted by Barbara, the mom, who informs Sienna that Jonathan has been suspended for bringing a dead possum to school. Sienna shows her disappointment in her brother, and just before she leaves the room, he begs for her to stay at home this Halloween night because he fears something bad might happen, but Sienna refuses to listen. On the other side of town, Art pays a visit to Allie's house and she happily greets him, as she recognizes him as the guy she met at the costume shop. Assuming he is old enough for trick-or-treating, she tells him she doesn't have anything to give before shutting the door, but he starts banging on it, upsetting Allie. She reopens the door and throws some candy into his bag and immediately notices the bloody tool in it. Scared, she retreats inside and watches as Art goes away. A few hours later, Allie is putting on makeup to get ready for Halloween until she gets interrupted by the sound of glass breaking. She goes under stairs to find her glass door broken, and to her surprise, she sees Art casually hanging in the kitchen. This terrifies her, so she begins to run while Art chases her. Unfortunately, the psycho manages to catch her and cuts her face with a knife before brutally skinning and mutilating her body with different sets of knives and scissors. Afterwards, he pours bleach and salt over her exposed flesh before wiping the skin off the poor girl's face. Downstairs, Allie's mom comes home from work and panics when she finds the broken door. She then heads straight to Allie's room and finds the traumatizing sight of Art and what's left of her daughter's mutilated body. The next scene shows Art opening the door to Allie's house and presenting trick-or-treaters with candy served on top of Allie's mother's head. Some of them complain about it being sticky. On the other side of town, Sienna is attending a Halloween party with her other friend Brooke and wonders where Allie is, but Brooke simply tells her to enjoy the party. Meanwhile, back in the house, Jonathan decides to warn his mom about his dad's symbolic sketches, but she has had enough of his morbid fascination and tears the book up in anger, upsetting Jonathan. He curses at her, which earned him a slap from his mother, so he decides to storm off. Not long after, Barbara hears some commotion downstairs. She then heads down to find the family's car vandalized, immediately thinking Jonathan's behind this. But of course, Jonathan didn't do it, because he is actually out in the driveway where he finds a strange car in front of the house with the clown girl inside. So she retreats to the house out of fear. Back at the party, Brooke sneakily informs Sienna that she has laced her drink with Molly. Soon after, Sienna receives a phone call from her mother who immediately starts ranting about how Jonathan's covered the car in shaving cream, toilet paper and eggs. After the call ends, the mother begins cleaning up the car, during which she discovers Art sitting inside. He shoots her face off with a shotgun, instantly killing her. At the party, Sienna discovers the little clown girl in the crowd, which freaks her out and sends her spiraling in a panic attack. But oddly enough, she seems to be the only one at the party who is able to see the little girl. Back home, Jonathan is welcomed with a sight of her dead mother seated at the dining table. Art the clown then swoops in and serves mashed potato on her empty plate. following the stuffing the rest of the mashed potato into her crater of her face. Jonathan tries to run but is stopped by the clown girl. He manages to slip past the murderous duo and heads upstairs to reach from Sienna's sword. And unfortunately, Art apprehends him and injects him with a needle to sedate him. He then picks up the sword and decides to take it with him. As this is going on, Brooke and her boyfriend Jeff are giving Sienna a ride home. But then Sienna receives a call from Jonathan saying that he is at the abandoned carnival. But in reality, it is actually the clown girl mimicking Jonathan's voice. Worried for her brother's safety, Sienna asks Jeff to drop her off at said place. And she heads out despite Brooke's warning. Jeff suggests that they probably should go help Sienna look for her brother, but Brooke objects as she thinks Sienna's brother has been acting weird ever since his dad died. She also adds that the dad suffered from a brain tumor which made him schizophrenic. Sienna begins to explore the place and gets a text from Jonathan saying that he is at the Terrifier, the carnival's haunted house. Inside the Terrifier, Jonathan wakes up to the view of the clown girl, whose entire face has now been mutilated. Pun intended, this terrifies him, so he runs for his life. Meanwhile, Jeff heads outside to take a piss, when Art suddenly shows up and stabs him. He then breaks the car's window and drags Brooke out, but she fights back and scrambles away. She enters the haunted house to hide, while calling Sienna for help. As she continues running, she trips and falls into the bathroom, where Art manages to find and corner her. He then beats her with a spiked bat and finishes her off. Not long after, Sienna walks into the room and finds Brooke's dead body, with Art standing nearby. As the two locks eyes, Sienna sees Jonathan behind Art and yells for him to run while grabbing a piece of wood and hitting him. Despite this, the clown still manages to overpower her and beat her up before walking away to find Jonathan. Still alive, Sienna gets up and finds Art's weapon lying nearby. Meanwhile, Art the clown teases Jonathan wherever he tries to run, until he finally grabs him and slashes his cheek. Fortunately, Sienna interrupts him, attacking from behind, injuring the clown with his own weapon. She takes her brother away with her. But as she is injured, she is forced to stop. While she catches her breath, Jonathan apologizes as he is convinced the clowns only took him here to lure Sienna, and that all this has to do with her dad's swords. The two then resume on their way out, but Art ambushes them and starts attacking Jonathan. Sienna comes to her brother's rescue, but Art throws her aside and beats the boy again. The girl doesn't give up. She crawls across the floor to protect her brother. After getting hit multiple times, Sienna finally manages to grab the chain and begins fighting against him. She beats him with it as she could and finishes him off by impaling a rod through his head. But it appears that he is immortal. The clown rises again and lunges at Sienna, strangling her. As the two scuffle, Jonathan notices a gun strapped to Art's leg and snags it. The boy then shoots Art and once again killing him. Sienna passes out from the lake of air, so her brother shakes her to wake her up. But as she opens her eyes, she sees her mother telling her that she is safe now. This is when things get trippy. She hears Jonathan yell that it is not her mother she is speaking to, and it turns out to be the clown girl. When she snaps out of the vision, she finds herself alone in the room and goes looking for Jonathan. She eventually finds her brother lying unconscious in front of Art, so she begins beating him, but he doesn't budge and instead chokes her and knocks her to the ground. The next time she gets up, she sees some sort of a portal in front of her. But while she tries to access it, Art comes up from behind her and stabs her with her father's sword. Before dropping her down the portal, this transports her to the water cell placed inside the clown cafe she dreamed about earlier in the movie, with a few people covered in blood happily goofing about in front of her without helping her. Trapped, she eventually drones to death. Back in the surface, Art walks up to Jonathan and begins eating his flesh, which wakes him up. As she struggles to get away, he screams for Sienna's help, and conveniently the sword which is lying nearby starts glowing somehow, resurrecting Sienna and magically healing her wounds. She exits the portal with ease and picks up the sword, using it to slay Art the clown. To finish him off, she uses it to decapitate him. Afterwards, she runs to her brother and the siblings wrap each other in a relieved embrace. Meanwhile, the little clown girl suddenly walks in the room to pick up Art's decapitated hat and carries it away. In the post-credits scene, we see Vicky, the sole survivor of the movie, inside a mental hospital. Blood rushes between her legs and she uses it to vandalize the wall. The word Vicky plus Art can be seen. As it turns out, she is in labor and demonically gives birth to Art's head. A nurse walks in and screams in horror, while Vicky laughs like a maniac while cradling Art's head. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching. If you like it, so please don't forget to subscribe my channel.